My name is Allison. I'm 32, and I've spent my entire life being told I take up too much space. As a plus-size model in New York, I finally found my confidence, after years of family criticism. But nothing prepared me for my mother's call last spring, about my sister Jessica's lavish wedding in Paris. "Everyone's invited except you," she said flatly. "Your presence would be too distracting from the bride." That rejection nearly broke me. Before I tell you how my Paris photo shoot went viral and changed everything, let me know where you're watching from. And hit that like button if you've ever turned pain into something beautiful. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, in a sprawling colonial house with manicured gardens and a 3-car garage. From the outside, we were the perfect American family. My father Thomas built his investment firm from scratch, working 80-hour weeks to provide us with every luxury imaginable. My mother Vivian, a former Miss Connecticut runner-up, dedicated her life to maintaining our family image. Then there was my younger sister Jessica. From the moment she was born, she was everything I wasn't. Petite blonde and conventionally beautiful, she inherited our mother's delicate features and our father's charm. I, on the other hand, was born with my grandmother's full figure and strong facial features. In our family photos, I always stood out like I didn't belong. "Stand behind your sister Allison," my mother would instruct during family portraits. "And maybe don't smile so wide this time." These subtle comments began when I was around 7 years old. By 12, they weren't subtle anymore. "If you just lose 20 pounds, you could wear normal clothes like the other girls," my mother sighed one day while shopping for my middle school wardrobe. We were in the third store that didn't carry my size, and her patience was wearing thin. Jessica, only 9 at the time, absorbed every word. She learned early that her value was tied to her appearance, and unfortunately, she learned that mine was too. Our teenage years cemented our roles in the family. Jessica became captain of the cheerleading squad, dated the quarterback, and maintained a perfect GPA. I found refuge in art club and debate team, places where my mind mattered more than my body. But at home, the contrast was always apparent. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became such a common phrase that I started answering before my mother could finish asking. Despite everything, Jessica and I occasionally found moments of real connection. Late nights when our parents were at charity galas, we'd raid the pantry and watch terrible reality TV together, laughing until our sides hurt. She would let me do her makeup for school dances, admiring my artistic touch. I would proofread her college essays, impressed by her ambitious plans. But these moments were fragile, easily shattered by our mother's comparative comments or Jessica's need for approval. I left for college at 18, choosing NYU partly for its arts program and partly for its distance from Greenwich. Those 4 years transformed me. I discovered body positivity movements, made friends who celebrated diversity, and eventually was scouted by a modeling agency that specialized in plus-size fashion. When I called home with the news of my first major campaign, my father offered cautious congratulations. My mother paused before responding, "Well, I suppose that's one way to make the most of your situation." Jessica, by then at Yale studying business, sent a text later. "Saw your modeling thing. Congrats, I guess. Pretty brave of you." That backhanded compliment perfectly encapsulated our relationship. She couldn't fully celebrate me without also reminding me of my perceived deficiency. After graduation, Jessica followed our father into finance, securing a position at a prestigious firm in Manhattan. We occasionally met for lunch, our conversations remaining surface level. She'd talk about her promotions, her luxury apartment, and eventually her relationship with Bradley Wilson, heir to the Wilson Hotel Group. Bradley was exactly the kind of man our parents had envisioned for Jessica. Tall, conventionally handsome, from an established family with old money and older connections. When Jessica called to announce their engagement after 18 months of dating, my mother actually cried with joy. "He proposed at the Wilson estate in the Hamptons," Jessica gushed over the phone, "with a 7-carat diamond ally. 7 carats. That's wonderful." I said, genuinely happy for her excitement. "I'm so happy for you, Jess." There was a pause before she asked, "Would you be one of my bridesmaids? Mom thinks I should ask Melanie instead, but I want you there." That moment of sisterly inclusion warmed me. Maybe this wedding would bring us closer. Maybe finally I would be fully accepted into the family fold. Of course, I answered without hesitation. I'd be honored. The next day, my mother called to discuss expectations. Jessica is having a very high-profile wedding, Allison. The Wilson family has appearances to maintain. I've taken the liberty of sending you some diet plans that could help you drop a few sizes before the dress fittings. I swallowed my hurt. Mom, I'm a successful model. I'm not going to change my body for a dress. Then we'll have to find something appropriate that won't make you stand out too much, she replied, the disapproval evident in her voice. This is Jessica's day, remember that? Despite this rocky start, I threw myself into bridesmaid duties. I attended the engagement party at the Wilson Yacht Club, helped Jessica research destination venues in France, and joined the bridesmaids group chat, where the other girls discussed fitness routines for looking wedding ready. The first major warning sign came during the initial dress fitting 6 months before the wedding. Jessica had chosen a high-end bridal boutique in Manhattan, and the bridal party gathered there one Saturday morning. I'm thinking Empire waist for Allison, Jessica told the consultant before I could even step into the fitting room. Something slimming. The consultant, to her credit, looked uncomfortable. We have many beautiful options that would complement all body types. Perhaps we should see what Allison prefers. Jessica's smile tightened. This is my wedding. I have a vision for how the bridal party should look. I ended up trying on 5 different dresses, none of which Jessica approved. With each rejection, her comments became less about the dress and more about my body. The problem isn't the dress, it's that you're just so different from the other girls, she finally said in frustration. Maybe we should look at custom options. The other bridesmaids looked away awkwardly. My childhood friend Tara, also a bridesmaid, squeezed my hand supportively. Later, as the wedding planning intensified, Jessica called less and responded to my texts with increasing brevity. The bridesmaids group chat buzzed with talk of pre-wedding events I wasn't being included in. When I asked Jessica about a spa weekend, the others had mentioned she claimed it was just a small thing that came together last minute. I tried to ignore the warning signs, telling myself it was just wedding stress, but deep down I knew something was shifting. I just never imagined how far it would go. It was a Tuesday afternoon in April when my phone lit up with my mother's name. 6 weeks before the wedding, with my bridesmaid dress finally ordered after countless revisions. I was between photo shoots, sitting at a cafe in Brooklyn, reviewing my portfolio with my agent Marcos. "Excuse me," I said to Marcos, stepping outside to take the call. "Hi, Mom, what's up?" "Allison." My mother began, her voice carrying that formal tone she used for difficult conversations. "We need to discuss the wedding arrangements." Something in her voice made my stomach tighten. "Is there a problem with the dress again? I thought we finally settled on—" "It's not about the dress," she interrupted. "It's about your participation in the wedding altogether." I leaned against the brick wall of the cafe, suddenly needing the support. "What do you mean? Jessica and I have been talking along with Bradley's mother. We all feel that perhaps it would be best if you attended as a guest rather than a bridesmaid." The sidewalk seemed to tilt beneath me. "A guest? Mom, the dresses are ordered. The plans are made. What happened?" "The wedding party photos are very important, Allison. The Wilson family will be sharing these with their social circles, using them for possible features in society pages. The wedding party needs to have a certain cohesive look." My free hand curled into a fist. "You mean I don't fit the aesthetic?" "Don't put words in my mouth," she snapped, then softening her tone. "Jessica wants her special day to be perfect. Surely you can understand that." "Let me talk to Jessica," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "She's very upset about this whole situation. She feels terrible, but the photographers have emphasized how important it is for the bridal party to compliment the bride. Your look is just so distinct." "My look?" I repeated, disbelief turning to anger. "You mean my body. Just say it, Mom." A long sigh came through the phone. "This is exactly why we're concerned, Allison. Your tendency toward dramatics. Jessica deserves to feel like the center of attention on her wedding day, not worrying about you making some statement or scene." I closed my eyes, processing her words. "So I'm out of the wedding party. Fine. When should I arrive in Paris for the ceremony?" The silence that followed stretched too long. Mom, honey, given how upset you clearly are, perhaps it would be best if you skip the wedding entirely. The world stopped. You're uninviting me from my sister's wedding. We think it's for the best, for everyone involved. Jessica is very stressed with all the planning and Bradley's family expectations. Your presence might make things uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. I echoed the word hollow in my chest. You know what I mean, Allison. You've always had this need to stand out, to make everything about your body positivity agenda. This isn't the time or place for that. This is Jessica's dream day. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here on a public street, not while my mother could hear them in my voice. Does Dad know about this decision? Another pause. He understands it's for the best, which meant he hadn't objected, had probably stayed silent as he always did when my mother made these decisions. I see, I said, my voice eerily calm now. And what will you tell the family, the guests, the 150+ people who know I'm Jessica's sister? We'll simply say you had work commitments. Your modeling career is taking off after all. People will understand. The casual cruelty of it all hit me like a physical blow. My own family was erasing me, finding me too embarrassing to include too much of a liability for their perfect society wedding. Mom, do you hear yourself? You're literally uninviting your daughter from her sister's wedding because of how I look. It's not just how you look, Allison, it's your attitude about it. Your insistence on making a statement. And honestly, you and Jessica have never been close. Because you made sure of that, I cut in, my voice rising enough that a passing stranger glanced my way. I lowered my volume, but not my intensity. You spent our entire childhood pitting us against each other, making her the ideal and me the failure. This is exactly what we mean about dramatics, my mother said coldly. This reaction proves we've made the right decision. I took a deep breath, fighting for control. Put Jessica on the phone. Right now. She's not with me and she's very upset about all this. I'll have her call you when she's calmer. Tell me the truth, Mom. Was this Jessica's idea or yours? It was a family decision, Allison. One we didn't make lightly. A family decision that excludes me from the family. Got it. My professional training was the only thing keeping my voice from shaking now. Years of having to look confident in front of cameras regardless of how I felt inside. Don't be so theatrical. You're still family. This is just one event. Just one event. My sister's wedding. The $750,000 extravaganza they'd been planning for over a year. The event our entire extended family would attend. Just one event where I'd been deemed too physically unsuitable to stand beside my own sister. Fine, I said finally. Message received. I hope Jessica has a beautiful wedding. Allison. I hung up, turned off my phone, and walked back into the cafe where Marcos was still waiting. One look at my face, and he knew something was wrong. Bad news, he asked. You could say that. I sat down, hands shaking slightly. Family drama. Want to talk about it? I shook my head. Not yet. Let's just finish the portfolio review. That night alone in my apartment, I finally broke down. The text from Jessica came around midnight, clearly crafted with legal precision. I'm sorry it worked out this way, but I think Mom's right that this is best for everyone. I'm under a lot of pressure with the wedding, and Bradley's family has certain expectations. I hope you understand. Love you. Those final 2 words felt like the cruelest part of all. The next day, I forced myself to go to my parents' house in Greenwich. I needed to face them to make them say it to my face. My father opened the door looking uncomfortable, but not surprised to see me. Allison, we weren't expecting you. Clearly, I said, walking past him into the foyer. Is Mom home? In the sunroom, he said quietly. Allison tried to stay calm. This wedding is very important for the family. I finished. So I've heard. My mother was arranging flowers when I entered the sunroom, looking perfectly put together as always. Allison, she said, her voice betraying only the slightest tension. I was going to call you today. To uninvite me again, I asked, remaining standing even when she gestured toward a chair. To make sure you understood our position. There's no need to make this more dramatic than it needs to be. Then explain it to me clearly, I said, because from where I'm standing, it looks like my own family is ashamed of me. My mother sighed, setting down her flower shears. It's not about shame, Allison. It's about what's appropriate. Jessica is marrying into a very traditional, very prominent family. The Wilsons have certain standards. The wedding photos will be in society magazines. Everyone will be watching. And I don't meet the aesthetic requirements, I said flatly. I'll embarrass you by existing in my body. You're twisting my words, my mother protested. My father entered the room, hovering uncertainly near the doorway. Dad, I turned to him. Do you agree with this decision to exclude your daughter from her sister's wedding? He looked pained, but not enough to take my side. It's complicated, Allison. The Wilsons are important business connections. This wedding is about forming an alliance between families. So I'm bad for business, I translated. Better to pretend I don't exist than explain why one daughter doesn't fit the Wilson aesthetic. That's not fair, my mother interjected. Fair. I laughed, the sound sharp even to my own ears. You know what's not fair? Learning that 200 guests, including second cousins we haven't seen in years, and Dad's golf buddies are all welcome at this wedding. Everyone except me. Lower your voice, my mother warned. Why afraid the neighbors will hear that you're excluding your daughter for having the wrong body type, that you'd rather lie to your family than have me in the wedding photos? This isn't just about your appearance, my father said quietly. It's about your attitude, your insistence on making everything a statement. Those words hit harder coming from him. He'd always been the quiet one, the one who sometimes slipped me encouraging notes or smiled proudly when I achieved something, even if it wasn't what my mother had hoped for. My attitude, I repeated. You mean my refusal to hate myself, my career celebrating bodies that look like mine, that attitude. Neither of them answered, which was answer enough. I saw Jessica's post yesterday, I said after a moment, about adding Natalie as a bridesmaid. Mom's tennis partner's daughter, size 0 former pageant queen Natalie. She's who you're replacing me with. My mother had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. Natalie and Jessica have become close recently. She's Bradley's assistant's roommate. The absurdity of it all suddenly struck me. This wasn't just about my body. This was about the image my family had always cultivated. The perfect American success story. And I was the one flaw they couldn't Photoshop out. You know what, fine? Congratulations on your perfect wedding. I hope the photos are everything you dreamed they'd be. I turned to leave, then paused. But don't expect me to keep lying for you. I won't pretend this was my choice. Allison, my father called after me. Don't make this worse. I stopped at the door, looking back at my parents. My mother rigid with disapproval. My father sagging with discomfort, but not disagreement. I'm not the one making anything worse. You've made your choice perfectly clear. Now you get to live with it. I left without another word, drove back to the city, and walked into my apartment feeling hollow. My roommate Zoe looked up from her laptop on the couch, her smile fading as she saw my expression. What happened? She asked, immediately setting aside her work. And finally, I let myself break down completely as I told her everything. The week after being uninvited from Jessica's wedding was one of the darkest of my life. I cycled through grief, rage, and a profound sense of rejection that took me back to my childhood insecurities. I called in sick to 2 photo shoots, something I'd never done before in my professional career. You can't stay in bed forever, Zoe said on the 3rd morning, placing a cup of coffee on my nightstand. As a freelance photographer, she understood creative depression, but had little patience for extended wallowing. It's Tuesday. You've been in the same sweatpants since Saturday. I'm processing, I mumbled into my pillow. You're marinating, she corrected. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. I'd been ignoring most calls, but Zoe glanced at the screen and raised her eyebrows. It's Marcos. 5th time this morning. Might be important. With a groan, I reached for the phone. Hey, Marcos. Allison, thank God. My agent's voice came through, brisk and energetic as always. I've been trying to reach you for days. Are you okay? Just a little under the weather. I lied, ignoring Zoe's eye roll. Well, perk up because I have potentially amazing news. Lumiere Curves wants you for their summer campaign. The shoot is in Paris in 3 weeks. 2 days of work, five-figure paycheck, and they'll cover all expenses. Paris, in 3 weeks, exactly when Jessica's wedding would be taking place. I don't think I can, Marcos. Personal stuff going on. What personal stuff could possibly be more important than the biggest plus-size luxury brand in Europe? This could be a game changer for your career. I sat up, cradling the phone. It's complicated. Family issues. Anything I should be concerned about? Health problems? No, nothing like that. I hesitated, then decided Marcos deserved the truth. My sister's getting married in Paris that same weekend, and I was just uninvited from the wedding because my family thinks I'd be too distracting from the bride. The silence on the other end lasted so long, I thought we'd been disconnected. Marcos, I'm still here, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. I'm just processing the fact that your family uninvited you from a wedding because you're a gorgeous, successful plus-size model who might outshine your basic sister. Despite everything, I laughed. That's not exactly how they phrased it. I'm sure they used more socially acceptable language for their body shaming, he said dryly. But Allison, do you realize what this means? You could be in Paris at the exact same time, absolutely slaying a major campaign, while they're there playing their elitist wedding games. The thought had already occurred to me, bringing with it a complicated mix of emotions. I don't know, Marcos. It feels petty somehow. And what if I run into them? Paris is big, but with their entourage taking over half the luxury hotels. So we make sure you're nowhere near their venues. Paris is huge. And petty, honey, it's not petty to live your best life while they're busy excluding you from theirs. Zoe, who had been unabashedly eavesdropping, chimed in. He's right, you know. The best revenge is success. I covered the phone. I'm not looking for revenge. Then call it poetic justice, Marco said, having heard her anyway. Listen, I'm sending you the details. Just think about it. The shoot would be at iconic Paris locations. Eiffel Tower, Louvre, Seine bridges. They want to contrast classic Parisian backdrops with modern inclusive beauty. It's literally perfect. After hanging up, I stared at the coffee Zoe had brought me, now lukewarm. What do you think I should do? I think you should get out of those sweatpants, shower, and call your friends over for an emergency summit, she said firmly. This requires group processing. 4 hours later, my small apartment was filled with my closest friends. Zoe had texted our inner circle with a cryptic, Allison family crisis plus career opportunity, intervention needed, bring wine. Tara, my childhood friend who'd witnessed the toxic family dynamics firsthand for years, arrived first with a bottle of expensive red wine and fierce protectiveness. I always knew your mother would pull something like this eventually. She's been threatened by you since puberty. Jamal, a fellow model I'd bonded with during a particularly grueling winter shoot in Chicago, brought cheese and righteous indignation. Families can be the most damaging force in our lives, especially when they claim it's all from love. Daniel, my ex-boyfriend who'd remained one of my closest friends, came with Thai food and practical solutions. First, we document everything they've said in case they try to spin this later. Second, we make sure you're financially and emotionally protected. As I recounted the full story, the phone call, the confrontation, the text, messages, my friends listened with expressions ranging from horror to fury. They literally said you'd be too distracting, like your body is some kind of visual offense. Jamal shook his head in disgust, as if the whole wedding won't be a shrine to conventional beauty standards anyway. The worst part is how they're planning to lie to everyone, Tara added, refilling wine glasses, making up some story about work commitments. Which is why the Paris shoot is actually perfect, Zoe pointed out. It makes their cover story accidentally true. You really will have a professional commitment in Paris. I sighed, picking at a spring roll. But doesn't taking the job seem like I'm playing into their drama, like I'm deliberately trying to be in Paris to spite them? Daniel, always the most level-headed of the group, considered this. Would you take this job if the wedding weren't happening? if it were just a regular career opportunity. In a heartbeat, I admitted. Lumiere Curves is exactly the kind of brand I've wanted to work with. Luxury fashion that celebrates diverse bodies. Their campaigns are stunning. Then you're not taking it to spite anyone, he concluded simply. You're taking it because it's the right move for your career. The timing is just karmic. Jamal leaned forward, his expression intense. Listen, when I told my parents I was modeling instead of using my business degree, my father said I was throwing my life away on vanity. He didn't speak to me for 2 years. I knew part of the story, but not the resolution. What happened? I kept working, kept succeeding. Eventually, I was featured in GQ. My mother called crying, saying my father had the magazine on his desk, but was too proud to reach out. Jamal smiled sadly. Sometimes you have to shine so brightly they can't ignore you anymore. But this isn't just about my career, I said quietly. This is about my place in my family, about being literally removed from a major life event because of how I look. Which is precisely why you can't let them win, Tara said fiercely. If you decline this opportunity, you're accepting their premise that you should be invisible, that you should hide away while they celebrate without you. Zoe, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly stood up. I have an idea. A way to make this more than just about taking the job. She paced the small living room, energy radiating from her. What if we create our own project alongside the Lumiere shoot, something personal, something powerful? What kind of project? I asked, intrigued, despite my hesitation. A photo series, in Paris. You looking absolutely stunning, celebrating yourself at iconic locations. Not just the commercial shots for the brand, but personal ones. Authentic, joyful images of you living your best life in the same city where your family is trying to erase you. The room went quiet as everyone considered this. I could shoot it, Zoe continued, enthusiasm building. Between your commercial sessions, we'll create something beautiful, something true. Not to spite them, but to reclaim your narrative. A visual statement about taking up space, Jamal added, nodding appreciatively. I love it. But what would be the point? I asked. To post on social media, to show my family. The point would be for you, Daniel said gently. To process this experience through art, to transform pain into something beautiful. Whether you ever share it with anyone would be entirely your choice. As my friends continued brainstorming, I felt something shift inside me. The heaviness of rejection began to lighten, replaced by a spark of possibility. Maybe this wasn't just about my family's hurtful decision. Maybe it was an opportunity to redefine what mattered to me on my own terms. I'll think about it, I promised. And for the first time in days, I actually meant it. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat on my fire escape with the last glass of wine looking out at the Brooklyn skyline. My phone buzzed with an email from Marcos containing the formal offer from Lumiere Curves. The compensation was even better than he'd indicated, and the creative brief sounded like a dream project. I took a deep breath and typed a response. I'm in, let's make this incredible. Within seconds, my phone rang, Marcos sounding triumphant. You won't regret this, he promised. This is going to be a turning point. I can feel it. Maybe, I said, surprised by the calm determination in my voice. But I need one thing to be clear in the contract. I want final approval on all images. This is too important to leave to chance. Already negotiated that clause, he assured me. They respect your brand and your vision. This is a true collaboration. As I hung up, I realized I was smiling. For the first time since my mother's devastating call, I was looking forward to something. Paris had always been a dream destination for me. Now it would become the backdrop for something unexpected. My own personal revolution quietly unfolding alongside my sister's grand celebration. In that moment, I decided Zoe's idea wasn't just good, it was necessary. This wouldn't be about revenge or spite. It would be about reclaiming joy in a situation designed to exclude me from it, about finding beauty in rejection, about taking up space unapologetically, even when that space wasn't offered freely. I texted Zoe, let's do the project, start planning. Her response came immediately. Already bought new memory cards and charged my batteries. Operation Allison in Paris is officially a go. As the Paris trip approached, I found myself caught in a strange emotional limbo. Professional excitement about the Lumiere Curves campaign collided with lingering hurt about the wedding, creating a constant internal tug of war. I need you to focus on the collection's aesthetic during our call with the creative director, Marcos reminded me during our prep meeting at his office. They're going for timeless Parisian luxury meets modern inclusivity. You're the centerpiece of this vision. I'm focused, I assured him, though my mind had been drifting to thoughts of my family. This is important to me. He gave me a knowing look. Is your family still texting you about the work commitment excuse? I nodded, scrolling through my phone to show him the latest message from my Aunt Catherine. So disappointed you're missing Jessica's big day for work. Can't they reschedule? Family should come first, dear. If only they knew, Marcos muttered, shaking his head. Have you told anyone in your family about the actual job? Just my cousin Rachel. She's the only one who asked why I was uninvited instead of just accepting the cover story. I put my phone away, determined to stay professional. But enough about that. Tell me more about the shoot locations. We spent the next hour reviewing the creative brief. Lumiere Curves had secured permits for morning shoots at the Louvre, afternoon sessions along the Seine, and a sunrise finale at the Eiffel Tower. The collection featured luxurious fabrics in jewel tones and classic silhouettes reimagined for diverse body types. It was exactly the kind of high-fashion inclusive campaign I dreamed of booking. They specifically asked for you, Marcos reminded me. Your Instagram aesthetic and previous editorial work aligned perfectly with their vision. This isn't just another job, Allison. This could open doors to European luxury markets that have been slow to embrace size diversity. By the time I left Marcos's office, I'd successfully redirected my focus to the professional opportunity ahead. But that evening, as I began packing for Paris, the emotional complexities resurfaced. I'd laid out potential outfits for Zoe's personal photo project when my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. My heart jumped, perhaps an apology, a reconsideration. Instead, just confirming you got Mom's email about keeping the real reason for your absence private. Some of Bradley's conservative relatives wouldn't understand the situation. Thanks for respecting our wishes. No acknowledgement of the hurt she'd caused. No recognition that she was asking me to not only accept my exclusion, but actively help hide it. I didn't respond, setting the phone aside to continue packing. For Zoe's project, I decided to bring pieces that made me feel powerful and authentic, a far cry from the slimming bridesmaid dress that had been planned for me. I selected a stunning champagne-colored evening gown with delicate beading that caught the light like stars, a crimson cocktail dress that hugged my curves unapologetically, a vintage-inspired blue ensemble that made me feel like a classic film star. Those are perfect, Zoe said, stopping by to drop off her camera equipment for our trip. She'd taken time off from her usual photography gigs to accompany me, calling it a creative investment. You think so? I held up the champagne gown. This one feels almost bridal. Exactly, Zoe said with a mischievous smile. Champagne in Paris. It's the perfect statement piece. As we continued sorting through clothing options, Zoe pulled up a map of Paris on her laptop. I've been researching locations. We should avoid the 8th arrondissement entirely, that's where the Ritz is, and your sister's wedding is at some exclusive venue nearby. I peered at her screen. How do you know where the wedding is? She looked slightly guilty. I may have done some social media stalking. Bradley's cousin posted about the venue, some private mansion that's rarely opened for events. The thought of potentially running into my family in Paris had been causing me anxiety. We should make a list of places to avoid. I don't want any awkward encounters. Already on it, Zoe assured me. I've mapped out the main wedding events based on what I could find online. Their welcome dinner is at some restaurant near the Champs-Élysées. The rehearsal is the following afternoon. Then the wedding itself is Saturday evening. You're thorough, I observed, impressed despite my discomfort with the topic. I'm protecting you, she corrected. This trip is about your work and your healing, not about them. The week before departure, I had a session with my therapist, Dr. Winters, who had been helping me process the family situation. How are you feeling about being in Paris at the same time as the wedding? she asked after I'd updated her on the trip plans. Conflicted, I admitted. Part of me feels like I'm being petty deliberately going to the same city. Would you have taken this job regardless of the wedding? Yes, absolutely. Then it's not petty. It's a professional opportunity that happens to coincide with a painful family situation. She made a note on her pad. What are you most afraid might happen in Paris? I considered this carefully. I guess running into them and seeing the look on their faces. The shock, maybe disgust or anger, being made to feel like I've done something wrong by being there. And have you done something wrong? No, I said firmly. I've accepted a job that's important to my career. I'm not crashing the wedding or trying to create drama. Dr. Winters nodded. Exactly. You're living your life pursuing your career, taking up space in the world. If they have a problem with that, it's their issue to work through, not yours. I keep telling myself that. But then I get texts from relatives asking why I'm missing such an important family event, and I feel this pressure to maintain the lie my parents created. That's a boundary issue, Dr. Winters pointed out. They've asked you to participate in a narrative that protects them from the consequences of their actions. You get to decide if you're willing to do that. I hadn't thought of it quite that way before. So what do I say when people ask, whatever feels authentic to you? You can be vague. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. You can be honest. I wasn't included in the final plans. You can redirect. I'm focusing on an exciting career opportunity instead. The key is remembering that you don't owe anyone an explanation that makes your family comfortable at your expense. That perspective stayed with me in the days leading up to the trip. I began responding to family inquiries with simple statements that weren't lies, but didn't expose the full painful truth either. Things didn't work out for me to attend, became my standard response. The night before our flight, I received a group text from my mother to the extended family about last-minute wedding details. I had been included in the thread almost certainly by mistake. The message ended with, "We're so disappointed Allison can't join us due to her modeling commitments, but we'll be sure to share plenty of photos." Zoe, reading over my shoulder, snorted. The irony of them using your modeling career as an excuse when they actually excluded you because of your modeling success. At least they didn't remove me from the family group text, I said with grim humor. Small mercies, Zoe replied, zipping up the last of our camera equipment. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we fly to Paris and Operation Gorgeous Allison takes the City of Light begins. That night I lay awake thinking about the parallel experiences about to unfold. My sister preparing for her dream wedding, surrounded by family. Me pursuing my dream job, accompanied by one true friend. Both of us in the same city living completely separate realities. It felt symbolic somehow, a physical manifestation of the emotional distance that had always existed in our relationship. I finally fell asleep to thoughts not of revenge or bitterness, but of possibility. Paris, the city of light and love, would witness two transformations. Jessica would become a wife, stepping into the role she'd been groomed for since childhood. And I would become something else, something authentic and self-defined, something neither my family's expectations nor rejections could touch. Whatever that something was, I was ready to discover it. Our flight landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport early Thursday morning, 2 days before Jessica's wedding. Paris greeted us with clear skies and mild spring temperatures, perfect weather for both photography and weddings. As our taxi navigated the busy streets toward our hotel in the Marais district, I felt a swirl of emotions. Excitement about the campaign, nervousness about potentially crossing paths with my family, and a strange sense of determination I hadn't anticipated. Look at that light, Zoe murmured, her photographer's eye, already assessing the city. The golden hour here is going to be magical. Our hotel was a small, charming establishment with wrought iron balconies and a view of tiled rooftops. Marcos had arranged for the Lumiere Curves team to book accommodations far from the luxury hotels where the wedding guests would be staying, minimizing the chance of awkward encounters. After a quick freshen up, I met with the Lumiere Curves creative team in the hotel's private meeting room. The creative director Sophie, a stylish Frenchwoman with silver-streaked hair, greeted me warmly. Allison, finally we meet in person. Your portfolio is exactly what we envisioned for this campaign. She gestured to the mood boards displayed around the room. We want to showcase how classic Parisian elegance belongs to all women, not just the sample-sized. We spent 2 hours reviewing the shot list, styling concepts, and schedule. The commercial shoot would begin the next morning at the Louvre Continue, with afternoon sessions along the Seine, and conclude with a Saturday sunrise shoot at the Eiffel Tower, coincidentally the very day of Jessica's evening wedding. The Eiffel Tower shoot is our centerpiece, Sophie explained, showing me concept sketches. We'll capture the first light of day, illuminating both the iconic structure and our inclusive vision of beauty. Symbolic, I nodded, appreciating both the artistic vision and the timing. While my sister would be preparing for her carefully curated wedding photos later that day, I'd be finishing a groundbreaking campaign celebrating the beauty of bodies like mine. After the meeting, Zoe and I decided to combat jet lag with a walk through the neighborhood. The Marais buzzed with energy art galleries, boutiques, and cafes filled with locals and tourists alike. I've mapped out our personal shoot locations, Zoe said as we found a small cafe for lunch. I'm thinking we start tonight with some blue hour shots by the Seine, when the light turns that incredible deep blue before true darkness. As she pulled out her location notes, my phone buzzed with a notification. A new post from Jessica's maid of honor showed the bridal party having lunch at a famous restaurant near the Eiffel Tower, all raising champagne flutes in celebration. The caption read, T-2 days until the most beautiful bride says I do. Har Wilson. Wedding, Jess, and Bradley. Parisian dreams. I stared at the image longer than I should have, taking in the details. The table overflowing with flowers. The matching silk robes all the bridesmaids wore. Jessica in the center looking radiant in white, surrounded by women who looked remarkably similar to each other, thin, polished, fitting the aesthetic my mother had deemed appropriate. Zoe gently took my phone and set it face down on the table. Let's stay present in our Paris, not theirs. You're right, I agreed, refocusing on our plans. Tell me more about the blue hour shots. We spent the afternoon exploring potential locations, taking test shots, and immersing ourselves in the beauty of Paris. As the day progressed, I found myself drawn into the creative process, my excitement about our project gradually overshadowing thoughts of the wedding. That evening, dressed in the crimson cocktail dress, I posed along the Seine, as Zoe captured images in the fading light. Tourists passed by, some smiling appreciatively or giving thumbs up. An elderly Frenchwoman stopped to tell me in broken English that I looked très magnifique comme un film star. See, Zoe said as she reviewed the shots on her camera. Paris approves of you taking up space. We ended the night at a small bistro discussing plans for the following day's commercial shoot. I was midway through my creme brulee when I froze, spotting a familiar figure at a table across the restaurant. Jessica's college roommate Emma, now one of her bridesmaids. She was dining with several people I recognized from social media as wedding party members. We need to go, I whispered to Zoe, keeping my head down. Now. Zoe glanced discreetly in the direction I'd indicated. Is that the bridesmaid squad? I confirmed, already signaling for the check. I can't let them see me. Why not? You have every right to be in Paris. I know, but I'm not ready for that conversation. Not yet. We paid quickly and made our way toward the door, but just as we were about to exit, I heard the unmistakable sound of my name. Allison, is that you? I turned reluctantly to see Emma approaching, her expression a mix of surprise and confusion. It is you. She looked me up and down, taking in the red dress. What are you doing in Paris? I thought you couldn't make it because of work. I forced a smile, acutely aware of the other bridesmaids now watching from their table. I am here for work, actually. A modeling campaign. Emma's eyebrows rose. Oh, Jessica didn't mention your job was in Paris, too. What a coincidence. The awkward pause that followed told me everything. Emma had just realized she might have stumbled upon something complicated. Yes, quite a coincidence, I agreed, keeping my tone light. How are the wedding preparations going? Amazing. Everything's perfect. Jessica's been so calm through it all. Emma glanced back at her table, clearly unsure how to proceed. Will you try to stop by the wedding since you're here? I'm sure Jessica would love to see you. The well-intentioned lie hung in the air between us. We both knew Jessica wouldn't want to see me, hadn't wanted me there in the first place. I'm afraid my schedule is completely packed, I said smoothly. Early morning shoots, late nights editing. You know how it is. Emma nodded relief, crossing her features. Of course. Well, it's great to see you. You look really good. Thanks. Enjoy your evening. I turned to go, then added, and congratulations to Jessica and Bradley. I hope the wedding is everything they dreamed. Outside, I leaned against the building, breathing deeply to steady myself. You handled that perfectly, Zoe assured me, hailing a passing taxi. You think I felt like I was going to throw up the entire time. Trust me, you were the picture of grace. And that red dress certainly didn't hurt. Emma couldn't stop staring. Despite my anxiety, I had to laugh. Not exactly the slimming, non-distracting look my mother prescribed for bridesmaids. Back at the hotel, I found several text messages waiting. The first was from Emma. So lovely to run into you tonight. Don't worry, I understand about your work commitments. Your secret's safe with me. I wasn't sure if she meant she wouldn't tell Jessica she'd seen me, or if she'd somehow intuited the truth about my exclusion and was offering solidarity. Either way, I appreciated the gesture. The second message was from my mother. Jessica's welcome dinner was a tremendous success. Bradley's family is so impressed with everything. We missed having you there, but the videographer is capturing everything for those who couldn't attend. The formal public-facing tone told me this was a message meant for the family group chat, though she'd sent it to me directly. I didn't respond. I fell asleep that night to the distant sounds of Paris nightlife and thoughts of the morning's photo shoot deliberately pushing wedding anxieties from my mind. Friday dawned bright and clear. The Lumiere Curves team arrived at the Louvre before opening hours, setting up equipment in the courtyard near the glass pyramid. The collection's jewel tones glowed in the morning light as I moved through a series of poses, finding my professional rhythm despite the surreal backdrop. Magnificent, Sophie exclaimed after reviewing the initial shots. You embody exactly what we want to convey: confidence, elegance, the right to occupy these spaces that have historically celebrated only one type of beauty. The morning shoot flowed seamlessly into our afternoon session along the Seine. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the river, I posed on the Pont Alexandre III, the ornate bridge serving as a dramatic backdrop for the collection's evening wear. These will be the editorial centerpieces, the photographer declared, showing me some of the shots on his camera screen. The contrast between the classical architecture and contemporary inclusive fashion makes a powerful statement. Throughout the day, I'd managed to stay focused on the work present in each moment, rather than worrying about wedding activities happening elsewhere in the city. But as we wrapped the final shots, my phone buzzed with a notification. Jessica had posted a photo from her rehearsal dinner. The caption read, "Last night as a Wilson-to-be / wedding eve." The image showed her surrounded by our parents Bradley and his family, all dressed in formal attire, at what appeared to be a private room in an exclusive restaurant. My father had his arm around her shoulders, looking prouder than I'd seen him in years. My mother stood perfectly poised beside Bradley's mother, their similar taste in conservative designer wear creating a visual harmony that surely pleased her aesthetic sensibilities. They looked like the perfect family, complete, unblemished by any inconvenient variations. My absence wasn't even noticeable. It was as if the family had always been just the three of them. "Tomorrow's going to be even better," Zoe said gently, redirecting my attention as we walked back to our hotel. "The Eiffel Tower at sunrise then, our personal shoot afterward." "You're right," I agreed, putting my phone away. "Let's focus on our project." That evening, we ordered room service and mapped out our plan for the following day. The commercial shoot would begin at 5:30 a.m. to capture the first light on the Eiffel Tower. Afterward, while the main team packed up, Zoe and I would stay behind for our personal photo shoot. "I think you should wear the champagne gown," Zoe suggested. "It'll catch the morning light beautifully. And there's something poetic about you in that almost bridal color on her wedding day." I hesitated. "Is that too pointed, too deliberate?" "It's not about her," Zoe reminded me. "It's about you reclaiming joy and beauty on your terms. Champagne happens to look stunning on you. That's reason enough. As we finalized our plans, I received another text from my mother. Everything is ready for tomorrow. Jessica looks radiant at the rehearsal dinner. Wish you could have seen it. For the first time since this all began, I felt more sad than angry. Not sad about missing the wedding, but sad about having a family that could exclude me so easily and still pretend it hurt them to do so. What would you be doing right now if you were part of the wedding? Zoe asked, noticing my expression. Probably at some bachelorette party at an overpriced club, I said with a small smile. Watching Jessica open lingerie gifts and pretending to be shocked by penis-shaped cake pops. And instead, you're preparing for a groundbreaking fashion campaign that celebrates bodies like yours, sitting in a charming Parisian hotel with your best friend planning art that matters. Put that way, it didn't seem like such a loss after all. Early bedtime. I decided setting my alarm. We have a sunrise to catch. That night, I dreamt of light sunlight on water camera flashes, the glow of chandeliers at a distant wedding I couldn't enter. I woke before my alarm feeling strangely peaceful. Today, my sister would become Jessica Wilson, fulfilling the destiny my parents had always envisioned for her. And I would be standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, becoming more fully myself. We arrived at the Trocadero before dawn, the Lumiere Curves team already setting up lights and equipment. The Eiffel Tower stood in silhouette against the gradually lightening sky, its iconic shape both familiar and somehow magical in the early morning hush. As the sky shifted from deep blue to lavender to pink, I moved through the planned poses in a flowing emerald gown from the collection. The photographer worked quickly, capturing the changing light and the growing glow on both the tower and my face. The juxtaposition is powerful, Sophie said during a brief break to adjust lighting. This monument that represents Paris to the world, and you representing a new vision of who belongs in luxury fashion. C'est parfait. By the time the commercial shoot wrapped at 7:30 a.m., the sun had fully risen, bathing the area in clear morning light. Tourists were beginning to gather, but the early hour meant we still had relatively open spaces for our personal project. I changed into the champagne gown in a portable changing tent the team had set up. When I emerged, Zoe gasped, "Allison, you look absolutely stunning." The dress caught the light, like liquid gold, its delicate beading creating a subtle shimmer with each movement. The silhouette hugged my curves before flowing gracefully to the ground, the fabric moving like water around me. As the Lumiere team packed up their equipment, Zoe and I moved to different vantage points, capturing images with varying compositions of me and the tower. In some shots, I was posed formally. In others, caught in candid moments of genuine joy. "Give me that smile again," Zoe directed. "The real one, when you were looking up at the tower." I glanced up at the iconic structure, feeling suddenly, inexplicably emotional. Here I was, standing in front of one of the world's most recognizable monuments, wearing a beautiful gown, being photographed simply because I deserved to occupy this space. Because my body, the very body my family had deemed inappropriate for their carefully curated wedding, was worthy of celebration. "That's it," Zoe called, capturing the moment. "That's the shot." A small crowd of tourists had gathered to watch them taking their own photos, others smiling encouragingly. An American couple approached after Zoe had taken a series of shots. "We hope you don't mind us saying," the woman said warmly, "but you look absolutely beautiful. Are these engagement photos?" I smiled, touched by her kindness. "Thank you. They're just personal photos, celebrating being in Paris." "Well, you're glowing," she assured me. "Absolutely radiant." By the time we finished, it was nearly 9 o'clock. We found a cafe for breakfast, both riding the creative high of a successful shoot. "I can't wait to edit these," Zoe said, scrolling through the images on her camera. "There are at least a dozen that are absolutely magazine-worthy." As we sipped our coffee and shared a basket of croissants, my phone began buzzing repeatedly. I had deliberately kept it off during the shoot, but now the notifications were pouring in. Several text messages from friends back home, a missed call from Marcos, and numerous social media alerts. I opened my texts first. Tara had written, Your mom just called my mom asking if I'd heard from you. Apparently, there's some drama at Wedding Central. Everything okay? Before I could respond, another text came in, this one from my cousin Rachel. Jess is having a complete meltdown about some missing earrings. Aunt Vivian is trying to reach you for some reason. What's going on? Weird, I murmured, showing Zoe. Why would they be trying to reach me today of all days? Maybe someone spotted you in Paris, Zoe suggested. Emma could have said something despite promising not to. I checked my voicemail next. My mother's voice tense and controlled. Allison, call me immediately. Jessica is upset. There's been a situation with the jewelry, and we need to know if you have any ideas. It's important. The jewelry, I repeated, confused. What does that have to do with me? My next voicemail provided more context. Jessica herself, voice thick with tears. Allie, the diamond earrings Grandma left me are missing. I had them yesterday at the rehearsal dinner, and now they're gone. I need to wear them for the ceremony. It was going to be my something old. Please call if you know anything. I'm desperate. Grandma's earrings, I said, understanding dawning. The antique diamonds. Jessica was always obsessed with them, and Grandma specifically left them to her in the will. Are they very valuable? Zoe asked. Financially, probably. But it's more the sentimental value and the superstition. Jessica's always been convinced they're lucky that they blessed Grandma with a happy marriage. I deliberated for a moment, then decided to return Jessica's call. Despite everything, I didn't want her wedding day ruined by missing jewelry. The call went straight to voicemail, suggesting she was probably in the middle of hair and makeup preparations. I tried my mother next. She answered on the first ring. Allison, where have you been? I've been calling for hours. I had an early morning photo shoot, I said, keeping my tone neutral. What's going on with Grandma's earrings? They're missing. Jessica had them in a special jewelry pouch in her suite, and now they're gone. She's beside herself. The ceremony is in 8 hours, and she's convinced the wedding is doomed without them. Despite myself, I felt a pang of sympathy for my sister. Jessica had adored our grandmother, had spent countless hours with her learning to bake and garden, while I had been more drawn to our grandfather's love of art and literature. Have you searched the entire suite, checked with the hotel staff? Of course we have, my mother snapped. We've turned the place upside down. The hotel manager has been involved. The wedding planner is calling every jewelry store in Paris to find suitable replacements, but Jessica insists it has to be Grandma's earrings, or the marriage is cursed. I suppressed a sigh. This sounded exactly like Jessica, a blend of genuine sentiment and dramatic superstition. I'm sorry, but I don't know how I can help. I haven't seen the earrings since Christmas 3 years ago when she first wore them. Well, could you come? My mother's voice shifted, becoming almost pleading. Jessica asked for you specifically. She thinks you might remember where she put them. You two shared a room when you visited Grandma, and apparently you always knew where Jessica left her things. The irony was almost too much to process. After being explicitly uninvited from the wedding, I was now being begged to come help solve a crisis. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. I wasn't welcome at the wedding because my body would be too distracting in photos, but now you want me to rush over because Jessica is having a meltdown over earrings. Allison, this isn't the time for rehashing old arguments. Your sister needs you. My sister disinvited me from her wedding. That was a mutual family decision, my mother insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. And right now that doesn't matter. What matters is helping Jessica. I closed my eyes, centering myself. Where was she last wearing them? At the rehearsal dinner. She specifically remembers having them on when they returned to the hotel, but she was a bit tipsy from the champagne. Did she check the bathroom? She always used to take her jewelry off while washing her face, even when she was half asleep. A pause. I don't think we've looked there specifically. Hold on. I heard muffled voices as my mother apparently relayed the suggestion. Then distantly, a shriek that could only be Jessica. My mother came back on the line, her voice filled with surprised relief. They were on the bathroom counter in the soap dish of all places. She must have set them there while removing her makeup. A hesitation then. Thank you, Allison. You've saved the day. Glad I could help, I said, unsure how to feel about this strange turn of events. Jessica wants to talk to you. my mother said, and before I could object, my sister was on the line. Allie. Jessica's voice was bright with relief and lingering tears. You're a miracle worker. How did you know? You've been putting jewelry in soap dishes since you were 12, I reminded her. Remember when Mom's pearl earrings disappeared and we found them a week later in the guest bathroom? Jessica laughed, a genuine sound I hadn't heard directed at me in years. God, yes. She was furious. Then her voice softening. I wish you were here, Allie. It doesn't feel right without you. The statement landed like a stone in still water, rippling outward with implications. That's not what you said when Mom uninvited me. A long pause. I know, I got caught up in everything. Bradley's family, their expectations. Mom was so insistent about how everything needed to look perfect. And I didn't fit the perfect image. It wasn't just that, she said quietly. I was jealous, okay? You've been building this amazing career on your own terms. People celebrate you for exactly who you are. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to fit everyone else's expectations. The admission stunned me into momentary silence. Anyway, she continued, her voice returning to its bright society girl tone. I should get back to hair and makeup. Thanks for saving the day with the earrings. I owe you. Enjoy your wedding, Jess, I said sincerely. I hope it's everything you've dreamed. After hanging up, I sat in silence processing the unexpected conversation. Well, that was quite a plot twist, Zoe observed, having heard my side of the exchange. Yeah, I agreed, still trying to make sense of it all. Jessica admitted she was jealous of me. That's new. Sounds like a tiny crack in the family facade, Zoe said, a moment of genuine emotion breaking through all the pretense. I nodded, thinking about Jessica's admission. Had she really been jealous of me all this time? While I was envying her acceptance and family approval, had she been envying my independence and self-acceptance? I need to process this, I said. But first, I want to see those photos. Zoe connected her camera to her tablet, and we spent the next hour reviewing the images from our personal photo shoot. They were even more beautiful than I'd anticipated, joyful, confident, radiating a sense of belonging against the iconic Parisian backdrop. This one, I said, stopping on an image of me looking directly at the camera, the morning sun creating a halo effect with the Eiffel Tower perfectly framed behind me. My expression was peaceful, quietly triumphant. This is the one. For what? Zoe asked. I considered the question, weighing all that had happened over the past weeks. The rejection, the pain, the journey to Paris, and now this strange small reconnection with my sister. For Instagram, I decided. Just this one image, no lengthy explanation, no drama, just me being happy in Paris. You sure it might stir up questions from family and friends who think you're working nowhere near the wedding? I'm sure, I said, feeling more certain with each passing moment. It's not about them anymore. It's about me claiming my joy publicly. Back at the hotel, I selected the perfect image, made a few small edits to enhance the natural light, and composed a simple caption, "Found my own joy in Paris today." As my finger hovered over the share button, I hesitated briefly. This single post could potentially create ripples in my family relationships, bringing the carefully constructed lies into question. But it could also be the first step towards something more authentic, a refusal to hide or be hidden. I pressed share and set my phone aside, turning my attention to the beautiful day stretching before us in Paris, determined to live fully in this moment of personal victory. I woke the next morning to my phone practically vibrating off the nightstand. Blinking sleep from my eyes, I reached for it and found the screen filled with notifications, hundreds of likes, comments, and direct messages responding to my Paris photo. What in the world? I mumbled, scrolling through the flood of activity. Zoe stirred in the other bed, propping herself up on one elbow. What time is it? 7:15, but look at this. I held up my phone to show her the notification count. The Eiffel Tower photo has gone viral overnight. Let me see. She moved to sit beside me as I opened Instagram. The numbers were astonishing. Over 100,000 likes, thousands of comments. My follower count had jumped by tens of thousands overnight. This is insane, I whispered, scanning the comments. They ranged from simple fire emojis to heartfelt paragraphs about beauty standards and self-acceptance. Your phone's ringing, Zoe pointed out as the device buzzed with an incoming call. It was Marcos. Have you seen what's happening? He asked without preamble. Your Paris photo is everywhere. Lumiere Curves is ecstatic they couldn't buy this kind of publicity. I don't understand, I admitted. It's just a photo of me at the Eiffel Tower. It's more than that, Marcos insisted. It hit some kind of cultural nerve. The timing is perfect. Paris Fashion Week just ended. There's been all this discussion about body diversity in European fashion. And then you appear looking absolutely regal in front of the most iconic Paris landmark. People are calling it a statement piece. But I didn't say anything political. The caption was just about finding joy. Sometimes the most powerful statements are the simplest ones, he replied. Fashion bloggers are sharing it, body positivity accounts are reposting it, and now mainstream sites are picking it up too. Style Watch just reached out for an interview. As Marcos continued explaining the unexpected publicity storm, my call waiting beeped. My cousin Rachel. I should take this, I told Marcos. Can we talk later? Absolutely, and Allison, enjoy this moment. You've earned it. I switched to Rachel's call, bracing myself for family fallout. Please tell me you're actually in Paris, she said immediately. Your Instagram has the whole family group chat exploding. I am in Paris, I confirmed, for a modeling campaign. At the same time as Jessica's wedding, that's quite a coincidence. Rachel's tone made it clear she suspected there was more to the story. It's a work commitment, I said, sticking to the official family line even now. The timing just worked out this way. Right. And your mom didn't mention it was in Paris because… I sighed. Rachel, it's complicated. I'm guessing it has something to do with why you're suddenly not a bridesmaid when you were so excited about it 6 months ago. She lowered her voice, suggesting she was somewhere near wedding preparations. Aunt Vivian gave some vague explanation about your work schedule, but it never made sense why you couldn't just fly in for the weekend like everyone else. What's happening with the wedding? I asked, changing the subject. Did Jessica solve her earring crisis? Everything's back on track. The ceremony is at 6 tonight. She paused. Your photo is stunning, by the way. That dress is incredible. Thank you, I said, genuinely appreciating her support. Listen, I won't pry more right now, but when we're both back in the States, we're having wine and you're telling me everything. Deal. Deal. After hanging up, I returned to examining the flood of responses to my photo. Fashion websites had picked it up, praising the composition and styling. Body-positive influencers were sharing it with their own followers. Even a few celebrities had liked it, amplifying its reach. But among all these reactions, one was conspicuously missing any response from my immediate family. They must have seen it by now, I told Zoe over breakfast. Jessica's wedding isn't for ours, and this is spread so widely. Maybe they're just focused on wedding preparations, Zoe suggested, though she didn't sound convinced. Or maybe they're furious that I've exposed their lie about why I'm missing the wedding. If anyone asks, you're still sticking to the work commitment story, right? I nodded. I'm not going to publicly expose family drama, but I also won't hide the fact that I'm in Paris living my life and doing my job. Throughout the day, the photo continued to gain traction. Style Watch published a brief interview I did by phone focusing on the Lumiere Curves campaign and what it meant for diversity in European fashion. Other outlets picked up the story, expanding it to discuss broader themes of inclusivity in luxury markets. By late afternoon, as Jessica would be preparing for her ceremony, my Paris photo had reached 1 million views across platforms. Lumiere Curves had expedited the release of a behind-the-scenes image from our shoot, capitalizing on the unexpected publicity. My professional Instagram had gained nearly 50,000 new followers in 24 hours. We should celebrate, Zoe declared, returning from a quick errand with a bottle of champagne. Your first viral moment deserves proper recognition. As we toasted to unexpected success, my phone rang again. The screen showed my father's name, the first contact from my parents since the earring incident the previous day. I answered cautiously. Dad, Allison. His voice sounded tired, lacking its usual businesslike efficiency. I see you're in Paris. Yes, for work? as everyone's been saying. A heavy sigh came through the line. Your mother is beside herself. Jessica's wedding is starting in an hour and half the guests are talking about your Instagram post instead of the ceremony. A twinge of guilt mixed with defiance in my chest. I didn't plan that, Dad. I'm here doing my job just like the story you all decided to tell. But did you have to post that photo today of all days? It's just a picture of me in front of the Eiffel Tower. I didn't mention Jessica or the wedding or anything about being excluded. A long pause followed. Excluded is a strong word. Is it, what would you call it when every single family member was invited except one? Another sigh, this one sounding more defeated than angry. It's been a difficult situation for everyone. Especially for me, I pointed out. But I didn't post that photo to cause drama. I posted it because I'm proud of the work I'm doing, and because I have every right to share my life, even when it doesn't fit the family narrative. To my surprise, my father didn't immediately argue. Your mother wants me to ask you to take it down at least until after the wedding. And what do you want, Dad? I asked, suddenly tired of the pretense. Have you ever once asked yourself if any of this is fair to me? Life isn't always fair, Allison. Sometimes we make sacrifices for family harmony. Funny how I'm always the one expected to sacrifice. I took a deep breath, calming myself. I'm not taking down the photo, Dad. It's not about Jessica. It's about me refusing to be invisible. I expected him to push harder, but instead, he said something that caught me completely off guard. The photo is beautiful, by the way. You look happy. Before I could respond to this unexpected comment, he added, I should get back to the wedding preparations. Your mother is, well, you know how she gets. I do. Give Jessica my congratulations. After hanging up, I stared at my phone in bewilderment. My father just almost gave me a compliment. The apocalypse must be nigh, Zoe joked, refilling our champagne glasses. What did he say exactly? That my photo was beautiful and I looked happy. Coming from my father, that's practically a sonnet. We spent the evening deliberately avoiding any social media related to the wedding. Instead, we enjoyed a quiet dinner at a local restaurant, followed by a twilight walk along the Seine. I tried to imagine Jessica's ceremony taking place across the city, the music, the flowers, the carefully orchestrated perfection of it all. Strangely, I felt no regret about missing it. The pain of exclusion remained, but it had transformed into something else, a catalyst for unexpected opportunity and growth. When we returned to the hotel, I finally allowed myself to check social media again. My photo had continued to gain momentum, now approaching 2 million views. Fashion and lifestyle publications were featuring it in articles about changing beauty standards and inclusive luxury. Comments poured in from women around the world, sharing their own stories of feeling excluded because of their bodies. You've started something much bigger than a family drama, Zoe observed, scrolling through the responses. This is becoming a movement conversation. Among the flood of notifications was a message from Jessica sent just after her ceremony would have concluded. Just married, saw your photo, you look stunning. We need to talk when I'm back from the honeymoon. Things were handled badly. The brief acknowledgement wasn't quite an apology, but it represented more recognition than I'd expected. I decided not to respond immediately, giving myself time to process my feelings. The next morning, the publicity storm intensified when Women's Style magazine requested an exclusive interview about the story behind the viral Eiffel Tower photo. The editor's message hinted that they'd heard rumors about family wedding drama, but wanted my direct perspective. What do I do about this? I asked Zoe, showing her the message. They're fishing for the family exclusion angle. You get to decide how much of your story to share, she said thoughtfully. You can focus entirely on the professional aspects, or you can use this as an opportunity to address body acceptance in family dynamics more broadly. After careful consideration, I agreed to the interview, but set clear boundaries. I would discuss my experiences with body image and the fashion industry's evolving standards, but I wouldn't expose specific family conflicts. Instead, I would address the broader issue of how families sometimes perpetuate harmful beauty standards. The resulting article, published digitally 3 days later, as we prepared to leave Paris, struck the perfect balance. Titled, Redefining Beauty on Your Own Terms. It featured several images from both the commercial campaign and our personal project. The text focused on my journey from self-doubt to professional confidence, touching only briefly on family challenges without specific accusations. The most powerful part came from my own words. Many of us grow up in environments where we're subtly or explicitly taught that our worth is tied to our appearance. Breaking free from that conditioning requires finding people who celebrate you exactly as you are. Sometimes the family you build becomes more supportive than the family you were born into. By the time we boarded our flight back to New York, my Eiffel Tower photo had reached 4 million views, been featured in dozens of publications, and sparked conversations about beauty standards across social media platforms. What had begun as a personal moment of reclaiming joy had evolved into something with cultural significance beyond anything I could have anticipated. Back home, the professional opportunities began flooding in. Brand partnership offers, speaking engagement requests, and interview invitations filled my inbox. Marcos could barely contain his excitement as he called with each new development. "This is what we call a career-defining moment," he told me during our first meeting after Paris. "You've broken through from working model to cultural figure. Now we need to be strategic about capitalizing on this momentum." While my career soared, my family remained largely silent. My mother hadn't contacted me directly since before the wedding. My father had sent one brief text: "Home safely. The Paris campaign looks impressive." Jessica and Bradley were honeymooning in the Maldives, temporarily removed from the aftermath of both the wedding and my viral moment. 3 weeks after returning from Paris, I received an unexpected call from my father asking if I'd meet him for lunch. Curious but cautious, I agreed to see him at a restaurant halfway between my Brooklyn apartment and his Manhattan office. He was already seated when I arrived, looking strangely out of place in his bespoke suit amid the casual lunch crowd. He stood when he saw me, an awkward half-smile on his face. "Allison, thank you for coming." We exchanged stilted pleasantries as we ordered, both clearly unsure how to navigate this unusual one-on-one meeting. Finally, as our food arrived, my father cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology," he said, the words coming out stiffly but seemingly sincere. What happened with Jessica's wedding was wrong. I should have spoken up. I set down my fork, stunned by this unexpected acknowledgement. "Why didn't you?" He sighed, looking older than I remembered. "The path of least resistance, I suppose. Your mother was so insistent, and Jessica was emotional about every detail of the wedding. It seemed easier to just go along. Easier for everyone except me." "Yes." He met my eyes directly. "I've been thinking about it constantly since Paris. Seeing that photo of you so confident, so clearly thriving, made me realize what we'd done. We excluded our daughter for having the courage to live authentically." I blinked back unexpected tears. "That's probably the most insightful thing you've ever said about my life." A sad smile crossed his face. "I've never been good at expressing emotions or standing up to your mother. That's no excuse, just the truth. I failed you, Allison. As a father, I'm supposed to protect both my daughters, not sacrifice one for the other's comfort." "Does Mom share this revelation?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Your mother is struggling." The wedding was supposed to be her crowning achievement as a society mother. Instead, it became overshadowed by your viral photo, which she sees as deliberately timed to steal attention. "It wasn't," I insisted. "I had no idea it would go viral." "I believe you." He hesitated, then added, "But would you have posted it if you'd known how big it would become?" I considered this honestly. "Yes. Maybe not on the exact day of the wedding, but yes, I wouldn't have hidden myself away just to maintain the family fiction." He nodded slowly. "That's fair. You have every right to share your successes." Another pause. "Your career seems to be taking off remarkably." "It is. The Lumiere Curves campaign was just the beginning. I've had more offers in the past month than in the previous 2 years combined." "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. "I should have said that more often throughout your life." The simple statement hit me with unexpected force. How long had I waited to hear those words from my father? "Thank you." I managed, my voice thick with emotion. "Jessica called yesterday," he continued. "She and Bradley are back from their honeymoon. She asked for your address. I think she wants to reach out. Did she say why? Not specifically, but she seems different, more reflective than I've ever seen her. The wedding experience wasn't what she expected, despite all the planning and expense. I nodded unsurprised. The perfect fairy tale rarely is. As we finished lunch, my father asked tentatively about my upcoming projects. For perhaps the first time ever, he listened with genuine interest as I explained the foundation I was establishing to support body positivity education in schools. I'm using a portion of my new earnings to fund it, I explained. We'll develop programs to help kids understand that their worth isn't determined by their appearance. That's remarkable, Allison. Truly. When we parted outside the restaurant, he surprised me with an awkward but heartfelt hug. I'm sorry, he whispered again. I hope someday you can forgive me. I'm working on it. I promised, realizing as I said it that it was true. 2 days later, a text arrived from Jessica. Can we talk in person? I'm back in the city. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe in Chelsea neutral territory for both of us. I arrived first, claiming a corner table that offered some privacy. When Jessica walked in, I was struck by how tired she looked beneath her perfect makeup and designer outfit. Marriage hadn't immediately transformed her into the radiant society wife she'd aspired to be. Allie, she said, using my childhood nickname as she slid into the seat across from me. Thanks for meeting me. Of course, I replied, studying her carefully. How was the honeymoon? Beautiful, perfect, exactly what the travel magazines promised. She smiled tightly. I took 600 photos and posted 37 of them. Bradley spent most of the time on conference calls with his family's business associates. The subtle critique of her new husband surprised me. Trouble in paradise already. She waved dismissively. It's fine. I knew what I was signing up for with the Wilson family. She hesitated, then added, I saw your Paris photo. The whole world did, apparently. That wasn't intentional, I said carefully. It was just a beautiful moment I wanted to share. I know. She twisted her new wedding ring nervously. At first I was angry. It felt like you were deliberately stealing attention from my wedding. Mother certainly thought so, May. It wasn't about your wedding at all, I insisted. I understand that now. She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. The truth is, I was jealous, Allie. Not just of the timing, but of everything that photo represented. You looked so free, so genuinely happy. While I was micromanaging every detail of a wedding that was more about appearances than joy. The admission hung between us, startling in its honesty. I'm sorry about the wedding invitation, she continued before I could respond. Or the uninvitation, I guess. It was wrong, and I knew it was wrong even as I went along with it. Then why did you? I asked, the hurt still raw despite everything. She sighed deeply. Because I'm a coward, because Mother was so insistent, because Bradley's family is obsessed with appearances, and I've spent my whole life being rewarded for fitting in. Because it was easier to exclude you than to stand up for what was right. She shook her head. I have a lot of excuses, but no good reasons. That's surprisingly self-aware, I said, genuinely taken aback by her candor. A small sad smile crossed her face. Turns out getting everything you thought you wanted makes you reassess what you actually need. I spent my honeymoon wondering why I wasn't happier, why the perfect life I'd constructed felt so hollow. And what conclusion did you reach? That I've spent my entire life chasing approval instead of authenticity. That I sacrificed my relationship with my sister to please people whose opinions shouldn't matter more than family. She reached across the table, hesitantly touching my hand. I'm sorry, Allie. Truly. I can't undo what happened, but I hope someday we might rebuild something real between us. The apology wasn't perfect, still carrying traces of self-justification, but it was more genuine than anything I'd expected from my sister. I could see the effort it took for her to admit these truths, to step outside the perfect narrative she'd constructed. It will take time, I said honestly. This wasn't just about the wedding. It was about a lifetime of being made to feel less valuable because of how I look. I know. She withdrew her hand, accepting this boundary. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness, just An open door, maybe. A chance to try again differently this time. I nodded slowly. I think I can manage an open door. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. As we parted ways that afternoon, I felt a strange mixture of emotions, lingering, hurt, cautious hope, and a surprising sense of power. For the first time in our relationship, Jessica had come to me seeking reconciliation, rather than expecting me to accommodate her needs. The dynamic had shifted perhaps permanently. In the months that followed, my professional success continued to expand in ways I could never have anticipated. The foundation I established began developing body-positive curricula for schools. I was invited to speak at conferences about diversity in fashion. New modeling contracts arrived with brands that celebrated rather than merely tolerated diverse bodies. My personal life transformed as well. My friendship circle strengthened with Zoe, Tara, Jamal, and Daniel, forming a chosen family that supported me unconditionally. I began dating Michael, a children's book illustrator. I met at a charity event who looked at me with genuine appreciation for exactly who I was. Family relationships evolved slowly with carefully maintained boundaries. My father made consistent efforts to connect, often meeting me for lunch or calling just to check in. My mother remained more distant, struggling to adapt to our new dynamic, where her approval was no longer my primary goal. Jessica and I exchanged occasional texts and met for coffee every few weeks, gradually rebuilding a relationship based on authenticity rather than comparison. The first family holiday after the wedding was Thanksgiving, held at my parents' Greenwich home as always. The tension was palpable as we gathered around the dining table, everyone hyper-aware of the unresolved emotions lingering beneath polite conversation. Allison, I saw your new campaign for winter couture, my Aunt Catherine commented. The photos are lovely. Thank you, I replied, noting how my mother tensed slightly at the mention of my career. She's becoming quite the sensation. My father added, surprising everyone with his open pride. The foundation work is impressive too. Jessica nodded in agreement. Allie's doing amazing things. The school program she's developing should be nationwide. The simple affirmation from my sister, once my greatest competitor, felt more meaningful than any professional acclaim. Later, as we helped clear the dishes, my mother approached me awkwardly in the kitchen. The blue dress you wore in that winter advertisement, she said stiffly. It was quite flattering. Coming from her, this represented a monumental effort. Thank you, Mom. Your grandmother would have been proud, she added, not quite meeting my eyes. She always admired people who charted their own course. The comment wasn't an apology or even a full acceptance, but it was a small step toward acknowledgement. I accepted it for what it was, the beginning of a very long journey toward a new kind of family relationship. In my next session with Dr. Winters, I reflected on these changes. Healing isn't linear, she reminded me. There will be progress and setbacks with your family. The important thing is maintaining your boundaries while leaving space for growth. I'm not expecting miraculous transformations, I assured her. Just small steps toward mutual respect. And how are you feeling about your own journey since Paris? I considered this carefully. Stronger, more certain of my worth, less dependent on external validation. I smiled, and grateful for the unexpected gifts that came from being excluded. Such as, if I hadn't been uninvited from that wedding, I might never have taken the Paris job. I wouldn't have had that photo shoot at the Eiffel Tower. I wouldn't have connected with millions of people who felt similarly excluded or diminished. Sometimes, being kept from where you thought you belonged leads you exactly where you need to be. Dr. Winters nodded approvingly. That's a powerful reframing. A week later, an envelope arrived in the mail, an invitation to my cousin Rachel's wedding, scheduled for the following spring. Tucked inside was a handwritten note. Your presence would make my day complete. No dress code, no expectations, just love and celebration. Please come exactly as you are. I traced my fingers over the words, feeling the weight of their significance. This wasn't just an invitation to a wedding. It was an acknowledgement of my journey, an affirmation that I deserved to take up space in family celebrations exactly as I was. I texted Rachel immediately. I'd be honored to attend, and I know exactly what I'll wear. As I placed the invitation on my refrigerator, I thought about the champagne gown from the Eiffel Tower photo shoot carefully preserved in my closet. Perhaps it would make another appearance this time at a family celebration, where I was not just included, but specifically welcomed. The journey from rejection to self acceptance isn't completed in a single viral moment or family reconciliation. It continues daily in small choices to value yourself even when others don't, to create your own definition of success, to find joy in unexpected places. My Paris photo still hangs framed in my living room, a reminder that sometimes our greatest moments of triumph emerge from our deepest experiences of exclusion. That beauty exists in all bodies, all stories, all paths. That taking up space unapologetically isn't just a personal victory, but a statement that might help others find their own courage. Have you ever experienced rejection that ultimately led you somewhere better? Or found yourself excluded from somewhere you thought you belonged, only to discover a more authentic path? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share to help others who might be struggling with similar family dynamics or body acceptance journeys. Thank you for listening to my story today. And remember, sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we step fully into exactly who we are, even when others aren't ready to see it.